umaga po mga kaibigan. Karangalan pong makasama kayo sa isa na naman pagtatanghal ng Tapatan sa Aristocrat. Ngayong araw na ito, pag-uusapan natin ang paksang napakalapit sa ating puso, sa ating bulsa, at higit sa lahat, sa ating tiyan, sapagkat ito'y issue ng bigas. Noong kapanahunan ni Rene Requiestas, ang sabi niya, merong state of calamity sapagkat kumakalaman sikmura ng mga Pilipino pag bigas ang pinag-uusapan. Ngayon ba, meron pa bang state of calamity? Yan ang sabi. Sa nakalipas pong 3 buwan, napakataas ng presyo ng bigas at tila walang nagrereklamo sapagkat ang sabi po ay naaaliw naman sila sa mga nagaganap ngayon. We'd like to acknowledge the presence of Director Rex Estoperez. Halina po kayo. Noong ika-26 ng Pebrero, ikatlong anibersaryo ng Arrancada, Philippines, binanggit ni Dr. Roger Van den Brink, ang lead economist ng World Bank sa Pilipinas, na ang bigas ay mataas ang presyo sa Pilipinas. Ito po ay higit ng 40% sa prevailing market prices sa daigdig. Kung magpapatuloy ito, tiyak na walang magtatagumpay na poverty alleviation program sapagkat patuloy na magdarahop ang mga Pilipino. Sa nakalipas pong ilang buwan, nakaagaw pansin ang paglabas ng mga balita tungkol sa pagpupuslit ng bigas. Meron ng pangalan ng senador na nababanggit. Lumabas din po sa pagsisiyasat ng Kongreso na may mga kooperatiba na mga magsasakang sangkot na sa rice trading kaysa sa pagtatanim ng palay. Ang mga dahilang ito naging rason para magkaroon tayo ng focus sa bigas. Kinabukasan ng mamamaya't bansa, patuloy bang nadudugas? May katuturan ba ito sa nagaganap ngayon? Kasama po natin si Ginoong Ernie Ordoñez, ang original na Mr. Palengke, bago kinopya ni Mar Rojas nung maupo sa DTI. Sasabihin niya, Melo, bago tayo mag-almusal, dadalaw tayo sa palengke. Kasama rin po natin, mga kaibigan, ang isang dalubhasa sa larangan po naman ng palay. Ang aking pong kasama ngayon, pakikilala, ay si Dr. Eufemio Rasco na mula sa Philippine Rice Research Institute. Narito rin po naman si Retired General Alejandro Estomo, Director 3 ng Bureau of Customs, para magbigay ng larawan gaano ba kalala ang smuggling sa Pilipinas. Yung bang mga smuggler ay nakakatulong para mapababa ang presyo ng bigas. Narito rin po naman the ever reliable, ang maaasahan at hindi na umuusan ng istorya, si Director Rex Estoperez ng National Food Authority. Mamaya makakasama natin si Deputy Director General Bruce Tolentino ng International Rice Research Institute. Simulan natin kay Ginoong Ernie Ordoñez. Ano po ba talagang sitwasyon ngayon? Ano ba ang problema natin? Saan ba naroon ang kaso? Yan.
Imbes na bigay ko sa iyo yung presentation ko, sundan na lang niyo to, no? Mabilis ito, no? Alright? Meron kayo? Tinatanong po niya, gano'ng kalawak ang smuggling. Ito na, no? Alright. Sabihin ko sa inyo, ano ba nakita namin sa smuggling? Ano yung record sa Pilipinas? At anong solusyon? Okay, try mo na natin, no? Okay, sundan niyo ako dito, para hindi na dyan, no? Ano mas gusto niyo? Dyan o dito? Ano gusto mo? Ang main finding po, no, ay makikita ninyo na lahat ng ginagawa nila, magagawa ng executive, hindi na kailangan ng legal. Puro anti-smuggling law, dami-dami. 90% magawin ng executive. Kulang ang executive action. Kulang. Pero dahil kay Estomo at kay Estoperez, mga bago, nagagawa ngayon yan. Hindi pa kumpleto, no? Okay. Ano record? Sige, next page. Okay, alam po nyo, nakita nyo, no? Yung smuggling noon, 8%, bumabang 6%. Ngayon po ay 33%. Sasabihin niya, nambabola ako. Hindi. Kasi itong number na kuha ko, kinuha ko yung rine-report nila dito, no? No, at ano nakuha natin? Yung agwat nun, smuggling, may 10% error. Pero makita nyo to, kuha ko na yung 10% kasi ito ay top 25 countries which is 90% of imports, right? Okay. Sabi niyo, mali yan. Hindi. Kay Pinoy, 200 eh. Eh malapit, di ba? Kami ni Pinoy. Sabihin niyo si Pinoy, kinokopya ako. Ako kinokopya ko siya. Kaya kinuha namin yung Global well, hindi naman CIA yun, no? But American-based, Washington-based. Ang sabi nila, smuggled dito is 172. Ako 169. Right? So, mukhang si Pinoy at yung American-based, pareho sa numbers ko. So, ito, naginasmugling 26, naging 204. Ano nangyari? Isang ton, bumaba. Sabi niya, really, you cannot measure it. You can measure it. Ikalawa, you cannot fight smuggling. Of course not, you can. Because ito nangyari ito, bumaba. Bakit? Dahil kay General Angie Reyes, no? Siya yung Secretary of Local Government. But alam na alam ko yun. Kasi nagkaroon ng oversight. Kasi ang customs, pag hindi yung bantayan, kanya-kanya lakad yan. They do not pay attention to the NFA, they don't pay attention to DA. Sometimes they get bribery at the same time. Because when I went to DA, I fired all the people in DA. They were getting with customs. Kasi what? When I fired them, it went down. But I lasted only 2 years there because I fought Volante. So when I fought Volante, they promoted me to Malacay. I resigned. And for 2 years, I organized full-time 42 federations of farmers. That's why I know it very well, no? Okay, so bumaba, no? Bakit tumaas ulit? Kasi inabolish yung oversight. But inabolish, alam mo dating gobyerno ako, no? I was also a secretary under Ramos, no? Secretary of flagship. Okay, mabilis ako magsalita, no? Never mind, you can sit naman here. May propaganda naman ako. The bottom line is that I asked them why they abolished it. Because we were already catching them, right? Alam mo, we met every 2 weeks, pare, ha? We met customs, nanginginig dyan. They have to face 4 secretaries and 2 private sector. Alyansa for industry and me for agriculture. They cannot make bola anymore, right? So we caught a lot, including one top congressman of Gloria Arroyo and the son of a cabinet secretary. They abolished it. Sabi ko, dating gobyerno ako, no? I was Undersecretary of the NDTI, Office President, Secretary ako. You know, DPWH, DTI, they reported to me, I had the biggest projects, right? So kaibigan ko, why you abolish it? It's Malacanang, it's Malacanang. Even Angie Reyes, chairman, said it's Malacanang. Why? Why? Because we got the top people. All of a sudden, customs became a kingdom unto itself. Nobody could look at them. But during that time, agriculture, industry, justice, me and Aranza were there every 2 weeks. You know, we complained, we got results. After that, like Mona Lisa, many dreams are left on your doorstep. For all these years, we complained. Deaf, in here, one out the other. It happened with Bias and all that. Sevilla, Estomo, and Deliosa, these are my favorite people. But pagdating dito, they act, all right? Okay, so that's what happened, no? Grabe, pare, grabe, no? Okay? That happened 2005, abolished. Okay, next slide. Bilisan ko to, no? Because I'm sure you're in a hurry. Okay, anong komposisyon nito? Nandun yung customs, nanginginig. Kasi from that time on, we go to customs, they don't pay attention to us. DA and DTI, frankly, they prefer to go to Paris to get investments, right? They're not about to fight smuggling, right? This is rice self-sufficient, right? Wala nga siyang pakialam. Here, walang choice because they're meeting us in the private sector. Oh, putya, yung onions na yan, smuggled, mas grabe, tira, di ba? I mean, now, it's amazing what happened, right? But with Estoma and Sevilla and Deliosa, now, we're something, right? Incidentally, I'm the chairman of this new group, lower level, it's the same thing. But it's lower level. I want secretary, right? Okay, fine. Chaired by a secretary, undersecretary, once a month, no? Public sector. Hoy, DA. Sabi ng DA sa akin, undersecretary, Ernie, you know him, no? It's not our job, that's customs. Are you kidding? You're getting the bribes with customs. Number 2, you have to help the farmers. You put onion processing in Nueva Ecija, it's ridiculous because they can't sell the onions because they're smuggled onions, right? I mean, ridiculous, right? But they don't want to touch it. DTI, alam mo, I was the organization commission. I'd worked for arrest for 9 years, no? Subversion ako. I came back, 1 way, no exit. When it happened, I put the Bureau of Import Services, 32 people DTI, DA 0. 0, up to now, 0, right? Kaya ang grabe yung smuggling sa onions, di ba pa? Lalo na rice, right? Okay, fine. Next slide. So next slide ko, no? Itong example, nagalit pa rin ka magsasaka. Why? Alam mo itong inward foreign manifest, 2 days before it comes, alam mo na. So yung mga walang onion permit, huli. Ngayon, only customs has it. No one has it. Kasi when they abolish it, they got it. Which means only they know what's coming in. That the DTI knows, no? Okay, we asked for that. On February 10, there's a tripartite with a meeting. Alyansa Agrikultura ako, no? 42 federations. We had a meeting, wala nangyari. So we went to the law, Congress. July 23, Congress. We came. Pumasok na. June 5, passed by Congress. Signed August 23. Today, wala pa. Wala pa. So in the economic briefing, damit, 500 people were there. Mr. Sevilla, you promised it to us. We love you. You're the only one who called 2,010 years with my friend here. You've done things never done before. You put in the list the things that are coming in with price. But this thing, wala pa. Sabi niya, well, today wala pa. Okay? I mean, so they're good, but they're not as good as we want, right? Okay? Because alam mo, and Sevilla said, Ernie, what's the problem? You got imported 1 month earlier. Sabi ko, Mr. Sevilla, you probably new in customs, right? Bago ka, right? Bago ka ako. 10 taon lang linalabanan ko to. 2 days before is different from 1 month after. 2 days before, you see it, you catch them. 1 month after, habol-habol ka, right? Okay? And we showed you it came down, right? Oh, next slide, next slide. Patapos na ako, ha? Patapos na. Okay. Sa rice, anong rice? NFA, okay? Alam mo, I do not know if NA knows what customs knows, right? Iba, okay? NFA, what happened? Okay. Okay, they just arrived private sector. Thank God they stopped that, no? Ang exports reported by other countries, Vietnam, Thailand, India, etc., 1.9. Ang report ng customs, 1.0. Ang alam ng NFA, hindi 1 million. Ang alam ng NFA, okay, 0.7. Aba, may nawawala dyan, di ba? So sabi muna, underreporting 0.2, yan ang smuggled. Alam ng NFA, 0.7. May nawawala, right? May nawawala. So, total smuggling equals underreporting of 0.2 plus yung hindi alam ng NFA, another 0.3, at least 0.5. Ngayon, kung nangyari may oversight committee, hindi mangyari yan eh. Kasi alam ng mga to. Yung sinabi ko sa'yo, customs is a kingdom upon itself. They steal like the Dickens. It's 200 times worse than Napoles. Why? Why 200 times? Compute. 10 billion Napoles, 10 years, 10 divided by 10 is 1 billion. Pinoy said, 200 billion ang smuggling. Put a per page on Napoles smuggling. You'd never hear about it. But I must compliment my friend here, General Estomo. I've seen a lot, pero we still need more, right? Okay? Because alam mo, just IFM, no? I mean, Sevilla is a great man, but you know, linoloko siya, I think, because he's not getting the right information. IFM, right? I mean, something came in, wala na naman of IFM, right? Okay, so, kasi General Estomo, Commissioner Sevilla, General Delgado, they're new in customs. Those guys, some are good, some are not good, right? Okay, so they're not getting the right information. But when they get it, these guys really move. But I want better than that. How will get better than that? We want DA and DTI and justice to be there. Yang walang yung import permit, ridiculous, right? Because we have the authority from WTO to continue importing. But since justice is not there, matagal mag-respond, nakaw na nakaw. Okay, tapos na ako. Next. Okay, next. Conclusion. We submit recommendation, but do that. Okay, ngayon sa propaganda ko, yung page 3 mo, nandyan lahat, ha? Kasi alkalize kasi waiting, eh. So page 3 ko is additional things you can do to fight rice smuggling, no? Okay, number 1, kunin nyo hindi lamang yung smuggle, hindi yung mga taga-customs. Sali mo na yung DA kung makuha mo. Alam mo, nung nandun ako sa DA, tanggal lahat ng DA. Alam mo, dati DT ako, di ba? So pag sa DA, sa akin, kaibigan ka namin. Ang lagay naman, 100,000 per container. Sabi sa akin, tanggal lahat sila. Alam mo na, punta sila sa akin, ha? Put them back. I'm not gonna put them back, all right? That's what I'm in Volante too, you know. Never mind, but they were getting money, eh? Anyway, that's another story. But akong tinanggal. Pero dito, ako nagtatanggal. Number 2, alam mo sabihin niya, malinaw na. Kung ano ito, ha? Na mali ito. Hanggang ngayon, hindi masyado malinaw. Hindi, medyo malinaw na. Number 3, dapat, alam mo yung Supreme Court, meron na kami. Meron kami dadating. Cover nyo, ha? We're gonna go to Supreme Court this year for a second complaint against Carpio. Meron na kami doon, dinubusan. Wala pa nangyari, mabagal. Number 4, yung sinasabi ko, inward foreign. Number 5, sali kami dyan. Ang DTI, nandun. Ang DA, wala. Alam mo yung mga magsasaka. Alam po nyo, isa pang sabihin ko sa inyo, ako ang head ng semento sa 6 na bansa. Yun ang bibigyan ng sweldo kasi ang mga magsasaka, ako ang lumalabas na pera, hindi wala sweldo. Sa semento, mayaman yan. 3 sa amin, 3. Right? Ako rin ang head ng FBI, right? Sa magsasaka, buong group, every commissioner gave us authority except Biason. He's the one he didn't give kasi may tao sa paligid niya. They don't like us, right? So sa valuation, nandun ang DTI, walang DA. Ginagagong DA. I'm not kidding you, ha? And actually, DA really don't know what's going on. I tell them that. Okay, they should treat them right. And finally, Mr. Tolentino, yan po ay magaling na tao. Hindi magsasad. PhD yan. Hindi MD. MD, Doctor of Medicine. PhD, phony doctor. Katulad ko, phony doctor. Okay, so yun lang, no? Kasi tatakbo na po ako, pero si Dean Rasco, Mr. Rasco, I admire him. He and I were student council president at the same year. Ateneo ko, UP Los Baños siya. We're both activista, pareho kami. We're now activists again. So help us with our activism. Salamat po, salamat.
Very well. Thank you. Pakikuha na nung kanyang flash drive. So we're joined by Deputy Director General Bruce Tolentino at narito rin nga naman si Dr. Eufemio Rasco. Narito rin ang NFA at Bureau of Customs. Siguro, let's have a short rejoinder from General Estomo about facts and figures of rice smuggling. Our friends from FOCAP and the local media would like to hear how far have you gone para mapigil ang smuggling sa Pilipinas? Ito po yung mikropono natin.
Good morning, everyone. My name Brigadier General Alejandro Estomo, retired Director for the Customs Intelligence and Investigation Service of the Intelligence Group of the Bureau of Customs. Now my question is how far we have gone in our anti-smuggling. We do not have so much data about what happened previous.
However, lumalabas na your presence there rocked the boat already, right?
Yes, of course. Since the arrival of General Iliosa there, we have done a lot of things in order to control smuggling if there was. And these are the activities that we have done so far.
Okay.
Now, I cannot talk so much on figure because statistics, we need to research.
Okay. Pero
but
how
in
bad
so-
is the situation? Merong pang bigas na nasamsam yata sa Zamboanga quite recently.
Number one, insofar as outright or pure smuggling, meaning to say the importers get inside the custom zone, whether inside or outside of the custom house, walang nangyari na ganyan. Buong Pilipinas. Since October, there was no incident of outright or pure smuggling. Now, with regards to what we call misdeclaration, for example, the importer, dala nila yung imported goods into the custom house, and then they declared it as another thing. Walang nangyari na ganon. Meaning to say, in fairness to our importers, they are facing our custom house fair and square. Talagang hinaharap nila yan. No?
Okay.
Kung mayroon mang mga diferensya or hindi nagkaintindihan, it is in the question of the import permit. Wala silang import permit, kaya na-alert ang kanilang mga goods, and these alerted goods are still under, ngayon, nagkakaso-kaso pa yan ngayon. They are all under WSD or with warrant of seizure and detention. Kinakaso yan ngayon, na-hold pa. So, good to know, walang pure smuggling na nangyari or outright smuggling. So these are indications that something have been done. If we are going to consider nga ito'y attempt nila mag-technical smuggling sort of, at least na-alert sila. And then at least, it happens in the custom house.
Okay.
Pwede natin sabihin pagalang, pero in fairness to the importer, nandyan sila sa custom house, hindi lang nakaintindihan sa mga maliliit na mga bagay tulad ng import permit.
Okay. Dahil lang isang manifesto raw na kaya may smuggling, may ukay-ukay, pero it's not our topic today. Later na lang. For the information of our friends from the media, we invited Secretary Cesar Purisima, who endorsed our letter to General De Llosa. Kaya lang merong kompromiso ngayon si General De Llosa, kaya narito si General Alejandro Estomo ng Customs. Pero what has Phil Rice got to say about rice smuggling?
Isang article na sinulat ng Phil Rice. Ang nakalagay dito, curing the cause rather than the symptom, the case of rice smuggling. Ang sinasabi po natin dito, ang smuggling ay kung ba sa sakit ay parang lagnat. Yan ay sintomas ng sakit. Pero maaaring ang tunay na sakit ay meron kang bacterial infection at hindi magagamot ang sakit na yan kung iinom ka lamang ng biogesic or huhulihin mo yung nag-smuggle. Ang solution po nan ay ating mabigyan ng solusyon yung problema ng competitiveness ng ating mga rice farmer. Sapagkat kaya tayo nagkakaroon ng problema ng smuggling ay sapagkat ang presyo ng bigas dito sa Pilipinas ay mas mataas kaysa sa world market price. Merong temptation para sa mga traders natin na magpasok ng murang bigas upang lumaki ang kanilang tubo mula dito sa murang bigas. Isa pang dahilan ay sapagkat ang ating pamahalaan upang mabigyan ng proteksyon ang mga local farmers ay nagpapataw ng mataas na buwis, mga 40-50% na buwis. At ito ay iniiwasan ng mga traders. Kung sila ay magbabayad ng buwis, ay liliit ang kanilang tubo. So, nag-i-smuggle sila upang makaiwas sa mataas na buwis at magkaroon sila ng pagkakataon na kumita sa dahilan na mas mataas ang presyo dito sa Pilipinas kaysa sa world market. Sa PhilRice po, ang aming ginagawa ay pinag-aaralan namin hindi ang paghuli sa mga smuggler sapagkat yan ay trabaho ng Bureau of Customs. Ang pinag-aaralan namin ay bakit mas mataas ang presyo ng bigas dito sa Pilipinas, bakit mura doon sa mga rice exporting countries. At lumalabas po sa aming pag-aaral na ang isang mabigat na dahilan kung bakit mura sa mga rice exporting countries, ito ay India, Vietnam, Thailand, ay sapagkat ang kanilang ang society sa Thailand, sa Vietnam at India ay binibigyan ng pahalaga ang kanilang mga magsasaka. Ang ultimate effect po nito ay mababa ang cost of production ng mga rice farmers sa mga bansang nasabi ko. Halimbawa po, dito sa atin, ang irrigation, merong irrigation fee. No? May bayad. Kung ikaw ay magsasaka, kailangan kang magbayad ng irrigation fee. Subalit doon sa tatlong bansa na sinabi ko, ay hindi naman sila naniningil ng irrigation fee. Pangalawa po, kung kailangan mo ng kapital dito sa Pilipinas upang gamitin pagbili ng input sa rice production, ay napakataas ng interest rate. Sa cooperatives sa aming pag-aaral ay hindi bumababayan sa mga 24% per annum. Samantalang sa ibang bansa, kung hindi zero interest rate, ang pinakamataas ay mga 6%. So ang cost of money is very high dito sa Pilipinas. Yung level of mechanization ay mababa pa dito sa atin. Kahit binibigyan ng malakas na support ng ating pamahalaan ang mechanization sa rice farming, sa ngayon ang level of mechanization ay napakababa pa. Bakit ito importante? Sapagkat ang level of mechanization ang nag-determine kung ang labor cost ay tataas o bababa. Pag ang level of mechanization ay mababa, ay ibig sabihin manual ang rice cultivation at mataas ang cost of production. Lalo na dito sa atin na ang cost of labor ay mas mataas kaysa doon sa halimbawa sa Vietnam at saka sa India. So marami pong dahilan, subalit sa aming pag-aaral, ito ang pinakamalaki, yung cost ng labor, yung cost of money, interest rate, at ang pangatlo ay ang cost of water. Sa ibang bansa ay halos libre ang irrigation water.
Okay. Napakaganda nun. Pero sa NFA po ba, ano bang priority ng NFA na klaseng bigas ang maipagbili? Dahilan sa nakalipas na 3 buwan, 33 piso ang kilo, hindi lang napunan ni Juan de la Cruz sapagkat abala kay Bong Navarro. Ano po ba ang ating sitwasyon sa National Food Authority Director Rex Estoperez?
Sabi nga namin, bakit price crisis? Mukhang wala namang ganun. there's something wrong with the price, there's something wrong with your supply and demand. Di ba? So yung sa atin naman, for the last few months, no, katatapos na ng ating December na anihan for the main harvest, ito ngayon, nung February, nagtaasan ng presyo, until sa modal niya, umabot ng 38 pesos. So, ang ginawa namin, since nag-import tayo last April ng 205,700, and itong November ng 500,000 metric tons, yun po ang ginamit natin for buffer stock, and we intervened. No? Ang target supposedly natin ng January for distribution is only 733,000 bags. Pero umabot tayo ng 1.2 just to arrest yung presyo ng tumataas na commercial rice. Why? According to the farmer, according to our traders, cost around 18 pesos and 50 centavos. I went to Diet, ganun ang presyo. Pag na dry mo, umaabot sa 21 pesos. So definitely, pag ganun ang presyo, ang bagsak niyan sa merkado ay tataas. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na pag mataas ang puhunan nila, bababa ang presyo, hindi naman yun NFA eh. And the function of NFA is always on the side of i-subsidize mo in order to have a lower cost no yung sa consumers natin. Okay. And we're selling at 27 pesos for the regular milled rice and well-milled rice at 32 pesos. That's our consumers. Pero yung puhunan po nila ng traders natin, yung 27, 25 yun at saka yung 32, 30. So yun ang ginagawa nating intervention. Sa ngayon, we have arrested at 38 to 40 well-milled rice. Pero sabi ng ating mga kababayan, masyado pa rin mataas. What will we do? Hindi naman natin pwedeng sabihin na, babaan natin yung commercial para magsaganon, aalis ng magwi-withdraw ng ating pamalaan doon sa merkado. But we cannot. Dahil pag umalago yan, just like the 2004, pag pila-pila yan, then yan ang sinasabi natin, tunay na kulay ng administrasyon.
Director, political commodity ang bigas, pero let me ask you this. With what you said, it appears that we have a very rosy picture of rice farmers because they can make money.
How can we make the farmers competitive? On the other side, sasabihin natin bababa yung taripa. Mukhang hindi yun ayos. No? Ang pangalawa, sinasabi natin, yung mga magsasaka, dwindling na, wala na yun, mga mga endangered species. Conversion of lands, pag wala nang pumapasok sa agrikultura, dahil sa sobra ang gastos, kukonti ang kinikita. On our side, no, even though sasabihin namin na taasan natin ang presyo to make it near to the market, how can you? Sinasabi mo nga, political commodity siya. So ang sinasabi nga, are we that really competitive? How, when? No? Yun ba kakayanin natin? Kung ganun din lang pala, marami tayong problema, then what's the solution?
Sana nauunawa ng mga mambabatas natin kung ano ang buhay ng magsasaka at ng mamimili. Pero kung yung mga mambabatas mo, pinanganak na mayroong mga pilak na kutsara, hindi nila malalaman kung ano ang pagkalam ng sikmura ng taong bayan. Pero, Deputy Director General Bruce Tolentino, if we are to look into rice production, on an ASEAN and Asian perspective, where do we stand? Itong Pilipinas nating minamahal.
Is it farmer income? That's one. Another one is it price of rice to consumers? That's another one. Or is it the level of nutrition among the people? So these are three different measures, and depending on what you want to achieve in terms of those measures, you might get different results for each group. In the long run, what we care about is nutrition for the entire population. And that's the most important one. Now, I would like to take a moment to congratulate Secretary Alcala. And I would also like to congratulate Phil Rice and Director Rasco. And the reason why I am providing the congratulations to the Department of Agriculture and to Phil Rice is because we've been looking at the rates of change of productivity among farmers across ASEAN and across the world. And we can tell you for a fact that Filipino farmers, if you compare them across most countries, Filipino farmers are the best. And the evidence is the following. Just in the last 3 years, the level of productivity of Filipino farmers grew by 5%. While our main competitor, Vietnam, they only grew by 3%. We grew by 5%, Vietnam grew by 3%. Globally, throughout the world only grew by 1%. So, Philippines 5%, Vietnam 3%, world 1%. You can see that if given the opportunity and given the appropriate support services, Filipino farmers are still the best.
Very well. Sabi nga ni Joe Concepcion, the Filipino can. We have questions from the floor. Let's start with Sol Vancy of Manila Bulletin. Pakibunot na lang po. Yan. Thank you.
I came here precisely to listen to any arguments defending golden rice, which is your expertise. But listening to you just now, another question came to my mind, which is, what do you attribute this 5% growth in productivity of Filipino farmers to? Which is parang baliktad dun sa perception na bumababa ang production ng rice.
Thank you.
If I may respond. Well, essentially, over the last several years, there has been a major program by the department, and it should be the department who's talking about this, not me. And when these methods and seeds are available to Filipino farmers, they very quickly adopt new technology. And that's been proven even in the days of the Green Revolution. It was Philippines, Indonesia, and Thailand that adopted the technology the fastest, with the Philippines in the lead. Now, unfortunately, Filipino farmers can do a lot more if they have more irrigation. But irrigation takes a long time. We know from our experience globally that for an irrigation project to come online from beginning to end, from inception to production, it takes at least 7 years. So, one administration may start it, the benefits will flow in the next administration. But in terms of technology transfer, in terms of using new seeds and using new technology, the Filipino farmers adopt it very quickly. So the impact of the FSSP over the last 3 to 4 years has already been seen and is being felt by Filipino farmers.
Information from Dr. Tolentino na ang Pilipinas ay napakataas ng productivity growth. No? Citing USDA figures, merong pag-aaral kasi global ito, tiningnan yung increase in productivity over the last 4 years since 2010. No? Lumalabas na sa buong Asia, the Philippines exhibited the highest average production growth, 2.75%. And globally, second lang siya sa Brazil. Ayan, Brazil, understandably, mabilis kasi they are starting from a low base. So madaling mag-increase kung ang pag-uumpisahan mo ay maliit. Plus the fact that Brazil has a lot of land. No? But comparing among Asian nations, the Philippines has the highest growth in productivity. Ang Vietnam, which is the second highest increase in productivity, is only about 2.35 on the average. Sa atin, 2.71. Ang Thailand, which is traditionally ang main source natin ng rice, has grown only 0.2%. Yeah, more or less flat over the last 4 years. So, meron tayong ipagyayabang talaga. And if also I may cite na noong 2010, ang ating level of rice sufficiency dito sa Pilipinas was only 81%. Pero last year, 97%. Iyon ang pinakamalaking increase ng ating self-sufficiency level over a short period of time. Plus the fact na last year, we showed the highest production of rice historically. Yun ang pinakamataas na level of production sa buong history ng Pilipinas.
Dr. Rasco, walang PICOS yan. Totoo po yan,
Wala
totoo
pong dagdag bawas ito sapagkat ang sinasite nating figures ay mga international figures. Gumagawa sila ng mga comparison among countries.
Okay, very well.
Ano po ang nangyari magmula nung magkaroon ng, tinrace nyo yung history, yung umpisa nung magkaroon ng miracle rice, nung nauna ang Pilipinas sa development, at natatandaan ko kasi medyo may edad na rin tayo, yung programa ng gobyerno sa infrastructure ng panahon na yon, ng irrigation tsaka farm to market roads. What happened? Bakit? Kailan naudlot at bakit?
The history of Philippine rice production can simply be traced by the level of investments in irrigation. And during the years of Marcos from 1972 to about 1978, investment in irrigation was a very important part of the Philippine agriculture budget and rising at quite a fast rate every year. It was one of the principal items of infrastructure of the program, along with roads. So rice and roads was the mantra of President Marcos, if you recall. However, toward the late 70s, that irrigation investment level suddenly dropped. And we figured that it was partly because the government was starting to buy more shoes than invest in roads and irrigation. And so that divergence in investment could not be recovered until President Cory Aquino came in 86 to 89. So for a brief period, 86 to 89, there was an increase in irrigation investment again. Then Corazon Aquino left office, and it took about 2 or 3 years for President Ramos to pick up the pace and invest again in irrigation. Now, there was absolutely very little investment in irrigation during President Estrada's time. And because, as you know, we were not really stable between Estrada and Arroyo, not much happened since then. Now, under President Noynoy Aquino, one of his first acts of office, if you recall, is to fire the NIA administrator and change it. So there's now another push to invest in irrigation. But the fact is that irrigation investment takes a long time to start up. It's an engineering project, and our experience is 7 years from inception to water flow. So it really takes a long time to start up. You need to be pushing at it very, very strongly and continuously. So if you look at that pattern, we have lost roughly 20 years. And we need to really push hard now, not only on technology, but also on irrigation.
We go up, we go down, and up again.
Yes, it's a roller coaster.
Roller coaster. Yes, Dr. Ras.
Wag din, let's not forget that breeding or genetics, rice genetics, has contributed a lot to the increase in productivity. When I was a boy in the 1960s, the average yield in the Philippines was only 30 kabans per hectare. And farmers can only harvest once a year. But because of the modern varieties, today, 200 kabans per hectare is easy. And some farmers can grow as much as 3 times a year. So you're talking about an increase of from 30 kabans to a year to 600 kabans per year. That's what rice genetics can do, and we are continually improving this.
Okay. From NFA, gaano karami ba talaga yung kailangan nating i-import in the first place?
Importation is determined by interagency committee. We don't determine it. So if whatever is the assessment of the interagency committee, that's what they recommend to the National Food Authority Council, and the National Food Authority Council recommends. and approves for the importation.
Alin po yung mga paborito nating bilhan ng bigas so far?
Depending on the price, if we have, right now, we have an agreement with Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam. So when we have a government-to-government negotiation, we invite them and they submit their offers. And based on the offers, we determine the price. No? So that the determinant is the price and the availability and the capability to deliver.
Really? Pero some time ago, binalita ng Pilipinas na mag-aangkat tayo ng ganito karaming bigas. Kaya tumaas yung presyo sa world market.
Those are speculations always. You know, they have to always to play the rice supply. Some time ago, there was rice shortage. There was importation of 1.2 million. And we don't have the final information. But right now, we are importing, as published, we're importing 800,000 metric tons.
For this year.
For this, we will be bidding this month. April 15 is our bidding period.
Really? According to diplomatic sources, from January 1 to February 28, is this accurate?
We invited Cambodia, invited Thailand and Vietnam to submit an offer, and Vietnam was awarded with the 500,000 metric tons. On December, they delivered 220,000 metric tons, and the balance of 380,000 metric tons was delivered first quarter of this year. So that's part of it.
All right, thank you. I did an interview with President Estrada somewhere in Banaue when he was still Vice President, and his program was something like, we will no longer charge farmers of irrigation fees. And he won. And a couple of months after winning, he said, we will have to charge farmers irrigation fees because NIA could not survive. From the outside looking in, Dr. Tolentino, do you think irrigation is really that important to rice production?
Irrigation enables farmers to plant modern varieties, enables farmers to plant 2 to 3 times on the same plot per year. If you look at Vietnam and you look at Thailand, it is basically irrigation that have enabled them to plant as much as possible and to harvest as much as possible. That's really the major advantage they have had over us. Filipinos have been very good at adopting new technology, as Dr. Rasco has pointed out, but we have been slow in investing in irrigation. Vietnam and Thailand have been very fast in investing in irrigation. They aren't too great on investing in adopting new technology. So it's really important for farmers to have water in order to utilize their land more intensively.
Dr. Rasco, sinabi po ng World Bank na ang problema natin dito kahit meron tayong growth sa ekonomiya, yung policy distortions na nagpabagal doon sa growth in agriculture and manufacturing sa nakalipas na ilang dekada ang isang dahilan kaya't mataas ang presyo ng bigas sa Pilipinas. Ano po ang inyong pananaw dito?
We recognize that the price of rice in the world market is lower than the price of rice here. The average of 40% is correct. It fluctuates. Some years it's lower than that, some years it's higher than that. But we are talking here about the ordinary rice. When it comes to the more preferred rice with good eating quality, if you go to Bangkok and compare the price of rice in Bangkok with the price in Manila, these are not very different. So what differs really is the poor man's rice. Now, there are basically 2 reasons why we have this price difference. One is the difference in cost of production, and if I may add also the cost of marketing. We need to recognize that unlike Thailand and Vietnam, Cambodia, the Philippines is an archipelago. We have 7,100 islands, and this the country also extends from north to south, representing a wide range of agroecological conditions. So it's really very difficult to adopt a standard, technological intervention because of such wide differences in growing conditions. And also the problem of transporting inputs and transporting rice cause serious difficulties. You haven't counted the typhoons that interfere with the rice crop. So we have a lot of, what I'm trying to say is we have a lot of natural challenges which are not faced by our exporting countries.
Okay.
And the cost of production, per se, I already mentioned that there are differences in the cost of water, cost of labor, and also the cost of credit.
Okay.
But in terms of policy, what we've been trying to do since 1995, when we signed the WTO, is we tried to protect our rice farmers by imposing restrictions on the flow of cheap rice into the Philippines. Because if cheap rice keeps on flowing, then the farmers will have to sell at a loss.
Okay.
So to prevent this from happening, we impose quantitative restrictions, meaning that we set a limit as to how much rice can be imported, and also we imposed taxes from 40 to 50%. The net effect of this is that the farmers are happy, but the consumers may not be very happy because the net effect will be higher price of rice, as you mentioned, about 40% price difference. So we need to re-examine these policies in the light of the Philippines' commitment to the World Trade Organization. And I understand that these policies are under review at the moment.
Okay, very well. Anong laban ng National Food Authority sa mga negosyanteng tulad ni Kosay na bago pa magtanim, nakapagpaluwal na ng salapi sa magsasaka?
The National Food Authority has two functions, major functions. This is distribution and procurement. The procurement side from the farmers, we only support. Our support price, that's why we call it support, at 1770. Once the private sector procures lower than the 1770, we immediately intensify our procurement. That's where the private sector will increase their prices. On the other side, on the distribution side, the price pool mechanism, we flood the market when the prices are up. We pull, because of our flooding of the rice in the market, we pull the prices down to the level of, not necessarily for NFA's level, but on the reasonable level for the consumers. I think what Dr. Rasco said is that maybe we have to think again on the policies, especially on the mandate of the National Food Authority. There are complaints that during the Arroyo administration, we were able to sell 18.25 per kilo. Why is it that right now we are selling at 27 when we sell that to the private sector at 25? So there's a price difference then. During the time of President Arroyo, 177 billion. Now we have increased the prices. We have some reforms down to 150 billion. So again, we're looking again at the House bills right now filed in Congress. I hope we can have the new mandate, but 2016, we're smelling the 2016. We don't know yet whether these House bills will pass or not.
Yeah, thank you very much.
The point you raised was coming from World Bank. Now, when we have limited fiscal resources and we only have $1 or 1 peso, and we make a choice as to where to spend it, do you spend it in NFA for price support? Do you spend it in irrigation? Or do you spend it in technology? Now, your decision making, of course, depends on your political calculus as to how fast that intervention will work and how the benefits will be sustained. We can tell you that yes, NFA is a very quick acting mechanism. Political gains can be had from spending 1 peso in NFA. But in terms of longevity of the investment and the rate of return for your investment, your rate of return is always larger for irrigation and for technology.
Well said. Yes, please.
At any rate, like what Dr. Rasco said, when I was young too, we had food security in an arid area like Ilocos. Dr. Eobian said that they know how to collect water for the next irrigation, in spite of the fact that we only have one rice planting season. I experienced that as a future Farmers of the Philippines member before. We were sufficient at the time. But then irrigation, etc., the infrastructure that's are needed has been neglected. That's why we're back before Marcos' time. This year, we are supposed to be self-sufficient already, according to the pronouncements of the DA. But apparently, they came out with the excuse that because of the typhoon, and that area is not a rice granary.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to ask, because of that lead time that we are back 20 years, when will we be self-sufficient in rice?
Can we have some guesstimates?
But also in perspective, we should remember that when we achieved self-sufficiency in 1979, we were only about 40 million Filipinos. The job is doubly or triply harder.
Okay. Dr. Rasco?
Well, I wish it were as easy as estimating when a bridge will be completed, no? Because you have control of everything. But in the case of food sufficiency, we are really talking about a moving target here. One of the things that move is the number of mouths that we have to feed. And second is the amount of area available to us for rice cultivation. It's true that we are developing new irrigation systems, but it's also true that old irrigation systems are being destroyed by natural calamities. We must remember that in 2013, we had 2 major typhoons. One is Yolanda, of course, everybody remembers Yolanda. But as far as impact on rice production is concerned, that is quite minimal. What was really destructive was Santi that hit central Luzon and northern Luzon. Remember, these 2 areas are the biggest rice-producing regions in this country. And Santi hit Isabela, Cagayan, and central Luzon at the time that the rice was about ready for harvest. So that was a very massive loss of rice. I was pleasantly surprised that in spite of that, we were able to attain the highest rice production in history and got 97% sufficiency. Now, when can we achieve rice sufficiency? We could have achieved it last year, but were it not for these calamities. What I can say is we will continue to work on this, and but in the final analysis, it's not rice sufficiency per se that is more important, that is more sustainable. What is important is the competitiveness, the efficiency of the rice farmer. And in the long term, technology is the key to this. That's why we have been advocating a higher investment on research and development, especially for food crops like rice. We must recognize that among the Asian countries, we have one of the lowest investment on R&D in this country. We need a lot of catching up to do.
I'm sure may barometer or rating kung if may success rate natin sa anti-smuggling program. Ako may sarili akong barometro sa customs. As long as the media personalities in the Bureau of Customs covering that beat are living luxuriously, it means to say they may smuggling. Comment ko lang doon. So, ang barometro ko ganito, pag masarap ang buhay ng mga yan, sigurado may smuggling.
And you'd
Yun
like...
nga sa Senado, nakita ko, di ba, hindi nila ma-pinpoint si David Tan. Eh kung tinanong nila yung mga tropa doon sa custom, tuturo nila kung sino si David Tan eh.
Ganon. So,
Dali-dali nun.
hingi ka lang ng comment kay General Estomo. Pag maganda buhay ng media nagko-cover sa customs na hindi naman talaga napamanahan ng magulang, may smuggling, ganon. Yes, General. Paano raw po iyon?
Kung maganda ang buhay ng media, so meaning to say there is smuggling, so I have yet to check what is really the life of the media people there. How are they going? You know. Dahil hindi ko pa sila gaanong nakakausap doon. I'm too busy with job. But pertaining to my own parameter, kung ano ang success and failure namin sa anti-smuggling, just like what I have said a while ago. First, wala nang na-monitor na tinatawag na pure or outright smuggling, whether in the custom zone or outside of the custom zone. I'm talking about only the period of October 2013 and to date. I cannot speak previous. And secondly, wala rin kaming nahalata dyan sa intelligence yung tinatawag na misdeclaration. Or meaning to say, they declared on something in the lodgement, and then we alerted, we inspected, and then we check on another item. Walang ganon. Ang nahalata lang namin is there were some interest nga walang import permit. Ito na-alert namin, na-inspect, hanggang ngayon kaso pa yan. Now, if you consider it as technical smuggling, so in fairness to, I would like to reiterate, in fairness to our importers, they bring in their imported items squarely at our custom house. And then they are paying it. Wala nga lang import permit. And they have some reasons also, which is now, yan, kinakaso na yan sa korte. It is in the question of what we call quantitative restriction, which my friend here at my left side can elaborate on it. So, ito ang mga bagay dyan. For us in the Bureau of Customs, we consider is as a success. Kasi wala na yung outright smuggling, wala na yung tinatawag pure smuggling. It is now a question of document.
Okay. General, if I recall, FOCAP invited Secretary Cesar Purisima. Paglabas niya, napagkwentuhan namin na mas makabubuti siguro, hingin yung tulong ng China para makuha yung datos. Ano yung pinagbili ng China sa Pilipinas? As against, ano yung na-import ng mga Pilipino mula sa China? And you will see a great difference. Malaki yung kanilang pinalabas patungo sa Pilipinas, maliit yung tinanggap natin sa Pilipinas na naka-record sa customs. Ngayon, kung saan napunta yun, yun ang hindi ko alam. Magtatanong ako sa Bulaklak. Di po ba? Yun lang palagay ko eh. You have your counterparts. You can get data from your counterparts to find out gaano karami, ilang tonelada, anong produkto pinadala sa Pilipinas. Tingnan natin sa records ng customs. Pag yan hindi nagtugma, talamak ang smuggling. Yan. Nasa tutuban daw, kundi sa 168 o sa 199. Maraming produkto nakarating na rin sa Bicol region. Kung paano nakarating, hindi rin namin alam. Kaya magtatanong din kami sa Bulaklak.
Sabi ko kanina, yung wala kami nakitang outright pure smuggling, I am talking about the rice.
Yes.
Because that is the issue for today.
Yes.
Pero yung other items, we have to check and investigate on that.
Very good. Very well. Iggy, please identify yourself and the entity you represent.
I'm Ignacio de the Daily Manila Shimbun. First, a couple of questions. First to Director Estoperez, how do you describe the situation now as to supply in the government warehouse? Because Secretary Alcala told us 2 weeks ago in the Philippine Economic Forum that they are slowly releasing the contents of rice in government warehouses. But since we know the first quarter harvest is usually thinnest, does it mean that we are just coping with stabilizing the prices from 36 to 38?
Actually, mahirap kasi. ano yun
Okay.
galing kay Secretary. Anyway, we know for a fact that movement of prices last February. And I said a while ago that we are intervening in the market, plus the 800,000 metric tons that we are importing. That's for our buffer stock for the lean months, since we have imported already for the buffer stock for this quarter. So with our release of rice for the same period, for the current period, we are still building up our buffer stock for the following months. No? Kasi yung summer harvest naman natin, very minimal ang ma-absorb ng NFA dyan because of the price. So we cannot buy in bulk, or we cannot increase our buying price then. But what we do is that we have to build our buffer stock through the additional of importation. So yung sinasabi na slowly releasing, yes, that's true, but we are building also our buffer stocks. So yun ang naman ang ginagawa natin almost every year. While there are years na wala tayong lean months, prices are down because of the rampant smuggling and the big import volume, that's 2.4, that was then, no? Sinasabi natin na ang daming bigas natin through smuggling and big imports. But now, we are only importing based on the assessment on what we need. So, yun lang po.
But sir, since price is an indication of supply, that means that the high prices indicate that supply is a little tight. Is that a correct conclusion?
That's correct. But if you are looking at the prices of harvest right now, which benefits the farmers, okay lang ho yun, but ang aming buffer stock hindi namin papabayaan. Ang nangyari lang po in the market that we are right now monitoring, there are plenty of commercial rice. But the problem is that their prices are 38, 40 pesos, which they're looking at the same level with NFA, at the same quality, 27 and 32, which we cannot do. Diba? Yung kung ano ang presyo nila doon, what the prices in the ex-farm, yun ang magdidictate ng presyo. So pag sinasabi natin na wala bang bigas sa ating mga papalengke, there are plenty of commercial stocks, but the prices are high compared with the NFA rice.
And sir, what is the situation now as far as rebuilding Leyte is concerned? Because Leyte is the third biggest supply of rice in the Philippines.
Okay, and so far as we are concerned, we are only in relief operations so far as Yolanda is concerned. Maybe we can ask on the production side.
Okay, so si Dr. Rasco speaking on behalf of Secretary Alcala.
Leyte has been devastated by the typhoon.
Pakilapit lang po sa microphone.
The irrigation systems, the roads, farm-to-market roads have been damaged, and that would have a big impact on rice production. As far as I know, the government is mobilizing a lot of resources to restore this damaged infrastructure. But at the same time, we are putting in technologies such as improved varieties, seeds, and other inputs so that we can help the rice farmers recover from this calamity.
The government has allocated already and approved the amount of 111 million for the rebuilding of the warehouses there in Alang-Alang and in some parts of Leyte and Samar. For the yung ating nasira na mga warehouses. That's on the part of NFA.
Okay. The retail as well as the wholesale prices of milled rice in the Philippines are very much affected by world movements. So I would actually invite the colleagues in the media to always check the world prices of rice, and the most reliable set of information is in Oriza.com. Oriza.com. And just look at it, and you can immediately see the Bangkok prices for a range of quality indices of rice, and you can compare it immediately to what's available in the Philippines. I can tell you that right now there's a lot of rice in the world. India is experiencing record highs in production. They are now the world's largest number one exporter. The world's number one importer right now is China, followed by Nigeria, and Philippines is about number 4. China and Nigeria, Indonesia, Philippines. Now, there's a lot of rice out there, so globally, mababa ang presyo ng bigas. However, as you know, our peso is depreciating. So when our peso is depreciating, imports are more expensive. So you compare that to what's going on in the world market as well as what's going on domestically.
It does certainly make good sense to import. And since we do not know also the effect of climate change on harvest this year.
If you're trying to buy cheap, right now it's cheap.
Dr. Rasco, sir, has the DA monitored the effect of siltation on the rice farms in the Yolanda-stricken areas?
The experience globally from typhoons and siltation in Aceh, Indonesia, Thailand, Eastern India, has been that after 1 or 2 cycles, if you plow it under, there's no problem with the siltation.
Can I ask General Estomo this question? Sir, could you please enlighten us on what is the effect of the QR? And as far as the customs is concerned, is the QR agreement already lapsed or is it still enforced? I know that this is subject of a consultation that the DOF has undertaken with the DOJ. QR, sir.
Quantitative restriction.
Yes, please use the microphone, General.
By the way, that is still hanging at the higher up. That is still, pinag-usapan pa yung mga desisyon niya kung anong gagawin dyan because mayroong mga, although we in the Bureau of Customs is implementing that item which is import permit from the NFA, it is challenged by the court. Until now, practically, right at this moment, hanging pa yan. Nakahanging pa yan. Wala pang decision. Maybe my friend here at my left can elaborate on this.
But General, so what happens to the impounded rice that apparently breached the QR?
Lahat tumatakbo ngayon sa Supreme Court and we are waiting for the decision of the Supreme Court.
We will supply the Supreme Court with all the confiscated rice. Palagay ko, everybody happy.
We can turn it into coffee.
Ngayon daw kasi, meron na po mga bigas na merong iron, if I'm not mistaken. Meron na mga vitamin A. Pero how true is it na merong cheese-fortified rice? Kaya nga. So it's not true after all. Wala pa. Hindi raw totoo yan, yung cheese-fortified rice. Okay. May tanong po si Sol. Have a question? Yes, please. Bago natin bigyan ng daan yung tanong ni Sol.
Tatanong ko lang po sa mga guests natin. Ano yung relation ng importation sa sufficiency natin? Pwede bang masabi nating sufficient tayo pero nag-import pa rin?
Well, parang it goes without saying na if there is importation, there is a perceived shortage. But it could be more than that because the main driver of importation really is the price difference. If rice is cheaper outside the Philippines than in the Philippines, then even if we have enough production here, some people will try to bring in rice into the Philippines, and that will drive the prices down. So it may not be exactly true that if we have sufficiency, that there will be no more imports. It all depends on the price difference. That's why we keep on saying that if we want to reduce import and the illegal import, which is smuggling, the ultimate solution is to make our farmers competitive with the exporting countries. so that there will be no more difference between the world market price and the domestic price.
Any follow-up?
Kasi sir, kung ganun yung ano natin, yung sinasabi doon sa relation ng importation sa sufficiency, pwede tayong maging sufficient nang umaasa tayo sa import. Ganun po ba yan?
We have to make a distinction between food security and self-sufficiency. When we say self-sufficiency, the implication is that we produce everything we need domestically. But food security could mean that we only produce a fraction of it and the rest we rely on imports.
What's the status of the golden rice?
Golden rice is a long-term project. We can trace its beginning to the late part of the last century, 1900s, when the first experiments were conducted in Switzerland and Germany. And this eventually became accessible to the developing countries through an international humanitarian board, which donated the technology to developing countries through the International Rice Research Institute. In the Philippines, the main research agency that is involved in doing research on golden rice is the Philippine Rice Research Institute. We've been doing research on golden rice since about 2007, and at the moment we have reached the multi-locational testing. So far, from what we have judged from the result of the experiments, the yield level we're getting from the most advanced version of golden rice is not as high as what we think it should be, so that it will become acceptable to the farmer. So we have deliberately delayed the release of golden rice so that we can have more time to work on the yield improvement, because ultimately it's the farmer who will decide whether golden rice will be planted or not. It's not really the consumer. And if the yield level of golden rice is lower than what the farmers are used to planting, then even if we have this added value of the presence of vitamin A, it will be difficult to convince the farmers to grow it. So we are after benefits both for the farmer as well as the consumer. Golden rice primarily is aimed at consumers, but the farmer must be convinced to grow it also.
Golden rice, or vitamin A enriched rice, is one among a set of what we call healthier rice varieties that we are developing at the moment in collaboration with partners not only in the Philippines but also in Indonesia and in Bangladesh. The other two varieties that are being developed are iron-rich rice and zinc-rich rice. The idea for all of these healthier rice varieties is to contribute to the resolution of micronutrient deficiency. As you know, in these countries, Philippines, Indonesia, Bangladesh, there's a big problem of micronutrient deficiency. 1/3 of all of our children are malnourished. 1/4 of all women, especially pregnant women, are malnourished. And basically, their malnutrition comes from the fact that they don't get enough access to micronutrients, especially in an area where rice is our staple. Rice does not have vitamin A, rice does not have iron, rice does not have zinc. So, if our poor people particularly eat a lot of rice, why not make the rice healthier? So, the research goal is to increase the nutrition content of rice. Beta-carotene, which turns into vitamin A, zinc, and iron.
Pag nangyari ba yan, kaya bang bilhin ni Juan de la Cruz yan? Baka naman mahal yan.
The goal of the research is to, gaya ng sabi ni Dr. Rasco, to enable farmers to be indifferent between rice varieties. They will plant the vitamin-rich rice in the same way as they plant all other rices, so that they can keep the seeds and plant it again for the next time. They don't have to buy the seeds from every time they plant. It will be an inbred, just like other rice varieties that they're planting now. And so the idea is, once the farmers accept it, we will then go into consumer studies for the acceptance also by consumers.
Thank you.
Based on my what I read, that the delay in the release or the agricultural acceptance or farmers planting it was because of resistance from ecologists and other similar groups.
Now, the zinc rich is not, the iron rich is not, but the golden rice is. So there is a lot of concern among those who are worried about the potential impacts of GMOs. But the fact is that there doesn't seem to be any evidence of such worries be coming true.
So, mawawala yung function na yun sa NFA. Ano mangyayari dito, Rex?
When NFA was established in 2002, we are doing the sole authority to import rice is NFA until President Gloria said that break the monopoly and let the private sector also import, and it includes the farmers. Sabi, walang problema po yun. Ang siguro magandang tanongin dyan is on the side of the consumers. Siguro, sasabihin na mas mura kung private sector. Siguro, I don't know. But ang malaking epekto nito ay doon sa farmers. So, minsan lang, pag sinasabi yun, during Senate hearings, we always ask this question. Ang sabi namin, let the farmer sector decide. Mas malaki ang epekto sa kanila ito.
Hindi po kaya, Director, ang problema nito mawawala yung mga magsasaka at magiging importers na lang, tulad nung nakita natin sa mga Senate at House hearings.
Well, yung ginawa po natin na private sector importation, napakaganda ng layunin yun. But it's abused. Lahat naman ng programa sabi niya maganda ang programa, pero pagdating sa dulo niyan, nagkakaroon na ng it's more fun in the Philippines.
Ayun lang po, nagiging dami ng smugglers.
Yes.
Ayun ang masakit doon. Okay. Ano po reaction ng PIRI at ng DA kung sakaling i-fully privatize ang rice importation?
Well, dalawang issue to. Una yung issue ng whether to import or not. And the other issue is who will import. Yung issue whether we should import or not, well, we have discussed that itong who should import, partly determine kung sino ang makikinabang doon sa importation game. My own thinking is that yung process of importation should be done as open as possible. Walang monopoly, walang pinapaguran, walang pinahihirapan. And if we do this, then I think it will be good for everyone, for the rice consumer, and maybe even for the rice farmer.
Yeah, okay. Mula po sa world perspective, side countries na fully privatize ang rice importation.
The Philippines is the last country with this kind of system. All the other countries have already given it up, including, as you may have heard recently, Japan is starting to talk about privatizing its rice imports. And that ought to be the last bastion of this kind of policy. So right now, the Philippines is the only one.
Okay. Maganda ito. Yes, please.
Yes. Pero ito mo din ako sa DWP. Sa area po, ito Sinabati ko po ang ere sa mga tagumpay ng pagtuturo sa mga Taiwan. Kaya ang Taiwan ngayon, ang Vietnam, ay tayo doon na nag-import ng ano. Hindi ko kayo magkaroon kayo ng programa na Pilipino naman ang ating itaguyod sa pagtuturo ng magandang pagtatay para sa gano'n. Mahinto na importasyon, mahinto na rin ng smuggling.
Sabi mo lang, baka naman ayaw ng Pilipino matuto. Joke lang, joke lang. Sige na, ang sa irik. Yun na ang sagot ko. Hindi, but we have pure rice, right?
No, kasi karamihan ng mga palayan ngayon ginagawa sa television. Pwede to suggest the executive and the legislative na gumawa ng patas na ipaglaban mo na para hindi na tayo mag-import. Para wala lang smuggling.
Maganda yan. Killjoy ka, kapatid. Alam naman ng mga Pilipino. Ano nung masaya nun sa smuggling, ikaw naman. But anyway, titignan natin. Pero sagutin lang po natin, short reaction. Bakit daw? Nagturo tayo sa Banyaga, pero bumibili na tayo sa kanila.
Nariyan ho yung teknolohiya, nariyan nyo yung mga resulta ng research na sa atin na po nagamitin. Ginamit ko ng Vietnam, ginamit ko ng Thailand, ginamit ng iba't ibang bansa. Tayo, parang nawabuli tayo sa paggamit.
Okay. Ano na problema? We have somebody from Malaysia here. How does Malaysia stand in all this? Yes. No. From the outside looking in.
Assalamualaikum. Malaysia has used the technology as much as it can. We have good relationships with MARDI, the Malaysian Agriculture Research and Development Institute, and the Ministry of Agriculture. And we have several Malaysian scientists at UP. And they have utilized technology. Their levels of productivity are pretty high, but they've also made economic choices. Their economic choices have to do with rates of return on products like palm oil versus rates of return on rice, rates of return on high-value commodities like vegetables, horticulture, durian. Have you tasted Malaysian durian? It's one of the best in the world. So you make these choices, and you don't only say that your entire agriculture sector is about rice, because agriculture is so many things other than rice.
Very well said. Okay. Yes, please.
IRRI. May mga grant po yan, mga research grant from multinationals whose products are parang multinational products. Hindi po ba?
All of our funding is from governments.
Foreign governments.
Yeah. Okay. Philippines, yeah. All right. We have some.
From government, not just.
All government.
From government.
Yeah.
Bakit po hindi ginagamit ng Department of Agriculture yung mga researches ng IRI? At bakit po nila pinopromote yung Department of Agriculture officials, pinopromote po nila yung mga products like planters products, so na nakakasira po sa in the long run sa production ng rice, nagiging acidic ang soil.
Okay.
Tapos,
Okay. Thank you very much.
Phil Rice ang arm ng Department of Agriculture upang mapakinabangan natin ang mga research ng IRI. Halimbawa po, yung mga tinatawag natin modern varieties, meron po tayong sistema na ang mga advanced materials ng IRI, hindi pa man nailalabas nila, ay nakukuha na natin at ginagamit natin sa ating sariling research dito sa Philippine Rice Research Institute. Kung titingnan niyo po yung history ng mga na-approved na varieties dito sa Pilipinas, marami po dito ay matrace natin kung sa work sa IRI. So hindi po totoo na ang teknolohiya na sinusulong ng ating pamahalaan ay hindi galing sa IRI. Tungkol naman po sa ibang teknolohiya, yung water saving technology ay nag-umpisa rin po yan sa IRI at ginagamit natin ito upang maturuan ang ating mga magsasaka upang mas matipid ang paggamit ng tubig sa pagtatanim ng palay. Marami pa pong iba at may assure ko kayo na ang mga researchers natin sa Philippine Rice Research Institute ay parating nakabang. Meron po kaming station na nasa labas lamang po ng gate ng IRI at ang aming researcher ay tatawid lamang ng riles ay nandoon na sa research area ng IRI at ang IRI naman ay bukas ang kanilang pinto sa amin. We can order anytime we want, we can get anything we want without any restriction.
Pero ang sabi niyo po kasi yung funding po niyan galing sa Philippine government.
Hindi lahat. Foreign governments. Yeah. Okay. Sana mas maganda kung napakagay yung tanig mo. Mas maliwanag yung talakay. Next time, come earlier. Okay?
IRI's funding, IRI's budget is about $90 billion US, $90 million US a year. And of the 90 million, 2/3 comes from governments. Mostly Western governments and 2 million pesos from the Department of Agriculture.
Pesos.
Pesos. Okay. $90 million and $2 million from the Department of Agriculture.
$2 million.
Dollars.
That's Philippines.
But that's only been in the last 3 years.
Okay. Meron pa rin.
Only. But before that, it was only $49,000.
Okay. Now we can afford.
Yes. Meron ng case.
Alright.
So,
may kwarta na.
So all throughout its existence from 1960, the funding has been largely government. 2/3 as of the moment, and 1/3 from Bill Gates. Yes.
Well, it's been a wonderful time spent with our resource persons. Kindly look into your crystal ball. What do you see about rice in the Philippines? What will happen? From now on until 2016, ilang daang araw na lang tapos na yung administrasyon Aquino. So what will happen from now until the end? We are talking of 823 days na lang yung Aquino administration. From Phil Rice, please.
Rice in the Philippines will depend on the fate of the rice farmer. Because the rice farmer who decides whether he will continue to grow rice or not. Based on our studies, typical farmer with 1 hectare of land can only earn about 25 to 30,000 pesos per season. Counting that there are 2 seasons a year, a rice farmer can only get about 50 to 60,000 pesos per year. Now this is way below the poverty threshold in the Philippines, which is 80,000 pesos. So our thinking is that unless the rice farmer is encouraged and actually engages in other farm and non-farm activities, his economic survival is in danger. So at Phil Rice, with the support of other sectors, and I hope you can help us in this advocacy, we would like to campaign for greater involvement of the rice farmer in other production activities. For example, in 1 year, the maximum number of days that a rice farmer spends on rice farming is about 220 days, 110 to 120 days per season. But we have 365 days a year. That leaves us with about 145 days that can be utilized for growing other crops, such as mung bean or corn. If a farmer will actually do this, then this would mean an additional income. The other possibility is for a rice farmer to utilize the waste product of rice farming. Rice straw is usually burned in many areas in the Philippines, but this can actually be used for mushroom production. And the byproduct of mass production, which is the spent substrate, which is rice straw, can be used for production of vermicast or fertilizer on earthworms. So, if a farmer will consider all of these additional activities, then his survival as a farmer will be assured. And in addition, we will solve the problem of unemployment and poverty in the rural area. So this week at Still Rise, we are launching what we call a rural transformation movement. The main essence of which is to promote diversification, intensification, and integration in the rice farms. These are big words, but in practice, this is actually very simple. So we would like to call on everyone to help us with this advocacy.
Since the time of Marcos hanggang sa ngayon, it will depend always on the policy. Ang problema sa atin is that pag bago ang namumuno, na bago umupo, a good policy and excellent policy ay nawawala. Sana yun ang ating sustain the policy na for the sectors, especially the farmers. Kasi magsasaka naman, they will only encourage if there are the components in farming are there. Pag wala, then that's the time na mag-isip din sila. I think it's more on the focus on priorities and policies.
As far as the Bureau of Customs is concerned, which I am representing, we are looking forward for a bright counter-smuggling. We are doing a lot of activities here in order to prepare or continue our counter-smuggling operations in the out-of-customs zone. What we are doing is we are monitoring all areas na mayroong mga reports ng araw na nagkaroon ng mga outright smuggling. Ililista namin ito. Pangalawa is we are recruiting informants in such a way na the importers or the smugglers cannot be utilized in the market. And then that is in a subtle manner encouraging them to face squarely our custom house. Secondly, we are controlling our people. We are doing a lot of investigations now.
House cleaning?
Yes, something like that. Housekeeping.
House cleaning?
Investigating people suspected to be doing some corruption para hindi na nila gagawin. Para wala na rin makausap yung mga suspected smugglers. Thirdly, we are encouraging our brokers, our consignors, to do it properly this time. Meaning to say, you do it properly, you pay your duties and taxes. And you do not talk to our people. You do not encourage our people to do corruption. So that it will discourage practically technical smuggling interests. So these initiatives have been done extensively since October, especially during the arrival of General Alyansa as Deputy Commissioner for Intelligence, which we in the CIS is doing our best also to support this program. Now, we are hoping that this will work until 2016, and then it will become a good job for improvement. So right now, we have seen a lot of improvement from this line, just like what I have stated a while ago. Since October, no more outright or pure smuggling. No more misdeclaration. Ang nangyari lang dyan is a question of import permit and QR, which is beyond the control of the commissioner because it is a higher problem. But
the problem, nonetheless.
It is a higher problem beyond the commissioner.
Okay.
So I hope I made myself clear. And we are very hopeful about this anti-smuggling activities of the
Yes, from Erie.
Even in the last few years, the Filipino farmer has shown that they can beat all other farmers in the Asian region. While globally, yield increases have only been 1%, Filipino farmers have grown 4 to 5%, and our closest competitor, Vietnam, has grown only barely 3%. So when Philippine farmers are given the right technical support, they can do it. What we need to add to that now is irrigation. So irrigation plus advanced technology, we can achieve whatever the goals set by the government for increased production.
Maraming salamat po. Hanggang sa susunod na edisyon ng Tapatan, we will talk about people next Monday. Thank you very much sa mga kaibigan natin sa Aristocrat. Have a nice day.